Hi there, my name is Phil, and yes, you can call me Phil. If you're watching this video, it's because you're taking my Political Science 150 course, or come the fall of 2025, it's going to be Political Science C1000. So there are going to be a series of introductory videos that you're going to be taking, especially if they're actually designed for people who are taking my online asynchronous course. But I'm also going to make this available to students who are taking my face-to-face classes. Um, if you look on the syllabus, you'll see where my office hours are. They change from semester to semester, so I don't have anything listed here. So be sure to look on the syllabus to find them out. And that's where you'll find the link to the Zoom office hours. I'll have a regularly scheduled time, but if the time that I set my regular Zoom hours don't match with your hours, if you have a class or you work or whatever, you can always email me. You can see my address on the screen right now at phil.gussin@canyons.edu. And just we can try and set up a time to meet. I'm pretty flexible in terms of that. I realize you guys are working and taking other classes and have other obligations. And so I want to be mindful of that. Um, so in this video, I'm just basically going to kind of introduce myself, tell my story, and basically this is what I would tell my face-to-face classes. So prior to going back to college, I was a plumber and a plumbing contractor. My business was actually called GPA Plumbing and had nothing to do with grade point average. It was Gus and Philip Aaron. So GPA Plumbing was my company. And I did that for a while. And then I'd always wanted to teach. I always wanted to go back to college. I had a bachelor's degree at that point in political science, but I wound up being a plumber. Life happens that way. So at some point, I decided I want to go back to school. So I applied to UCLA into their PhD program, and they turned me down. In a very nice way, they said, "We don't take plumbers." Really, what they said was, you've been out of school for a long time. Why don't you go back to school? Show us you still have what it takes to make it in a program like UCLA, and then you can reapply. I don't think they expected me to reapply. I figured they thought they were done with me. So what I did is I applied to the master's program at Cal State Northridge, and I got a master's degree in political science. Right, I graduated with a 4.0. Like I really wanted to prove to UCLA that I could do it. I presented a paper at a conference. I mean, I did everything I could to get into UCLA, and I reapplied the second time and I got accepted. Although what I found out after I got accepted is that they didn't accept my master's degree from CSUN. And so I had to go ahead and get a master's degree at UCLA. And then could move on to get my PhD. So I have two master's degrees in political science and a PhD from UCLA. And I taught it after I got my PhD. I taught at UCLA for 2 years. I taught at Pepperdine for 2 years, and then I taught at UCLA for 2 years. And then finally, I was hired by College of the Canyons, which I'm thrilled, was thrilled to be hired here, and am really excited. Have loved teaching here. So here's a little bit of what I learned teaching at UCLA and true Pepperdine, but really this is more so at UCLA. That some of my best students at UCLA were transfer students. They had come from community colleges. I don't think I had any College of the Canyon students at that time, but they had come from community colleges all over. And so that really informed sort of the way I think and the way I teach when I got to College of the Canyons. And so here's the good news. You have an instructor who respects you, who thinks highly of you. Now, I think there are a lot of people who kind of look down on community college students, treated as high school plus. I know for a while people used to refer to College of the Canyons as College of the Crayons. I know differently because I worked with transfer students, not specifically from College of the Canyons, but from transfer students in general who had come to UCLA through community colleges. So that's the good news. You have an instructor who really respects you. Also, here's the bad news. You have an instructor who really respects you. And because of that, my expectations are very, very high. I know what students can do at College of the Canyons. I've seen it. I used to teach the Model UN class here at College of the Canyons as well. And some of the students that I met through the Model United Nations at at COC were some of the best students I've ever had, including my students at UCLA. So that's the bad news. You have an instructor who respects you. My expectations are very high. This is a college level course. I'm going to teach you at a college level, and I'm going to expect a college level performance. And let me tell you a little bit about the structure of the class. When I first got hired by COC, they told me they wanted me to teach online. And I'll be honest, I wasn't thrilled with the idea. I feel like face-to-face classes are a better form of information delivery. They're a better way for students to learn. And quite frankly, selfishly, they're more fun for me as well. But really, at that point, I was just thinking face-to-face classes are a better form. So I didn't want to do like an inferior form of teaching. But I started to realize that that was a false choice because it isn't, for many students, the choice isn't between face-to-face classes and online classes. The choice is online or nothing. You know, some students have work, and so they can't come on regular times. We have older students who have kids. I mean, it occurred to me that this false choice wasn't cool. That for some people, online was their only option, and online is definitely better than nothing. So when I designed my course, my goal was to make my online class approximate my face-to-face class experience as much as possible. Like I wanted people taking the online class, you guys, to sort of get a feel of what it would have been like to be in my class in a face-to-face class. And so to that end, what I did is I recorded, like I'm recording this video now, all my lectures on videos in like 10 to 15 minute increments. Altogether, there are like over 110 videos, but I just recorded everything. And I figured I'll just have students watch my lectures. And by the way, my students in my face-to-face classes, if they're absent, you know what I tell them to do? I say, don't worry, if you're absent, it's not a problem. Just watch the videos because you're going to see the same material on the video that you would see in my lecture. So you're going to see exactly what my students in my face-to-face class see, right? You're going to see basically it's the same material. You know, I just teach the same thing over and over again. It's even going to be the same joke. So that's one of the things that I have to tell my students in my face-to-face classes is, look, if you watch the videos, you're going to see me make the same jokes I make in class. And the thing is, I try and make it look like I'm coming up with these jokes off the top of my head, but they're not. I mean, over the course of the years, I've told jokes and sometimes they don't work and no one laughs and I would tell them again. And sometimes students do laugh. And so I kept those and I moved them on. So I tell them, look, just so you know, this is my face-to-face students. I'm telling the same jokes, right? It's the same everything. And so you really are seeing exactly what the students in my face-to-face class are saying. The only thing that's different is there's not the same interaction. And you already know that. You're going to take the same quizzes. You're going to take the same exams. You're going to do the same discussion boards. Everything is going to be identical. What you would have done in a face-to-face class and what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be graded is going to be identical. Now, in terms of my professional orientation and the way I approach teaching, my goal is not to convince you to think like me. I'm not here to indoctrinate you into my particular perspective. My goal is to help you figure out what you believe, right? And quite frankly, unless you believe something crazy, I don't care what you believe. I understand. What I care about is that you know why you believe what you believe, and hopefully over time you can explain it, why you believe what you believe as far as politics goes. And so to do that, to meet this obligation, I'm balanced in my presentation of the facts. So the reality is the students frequently try and guess my political orientation. Am I a Democrat? Am I a Republican? In the past, they've tried to come up with clever ways to figure out whether I'm a Democrat or a Republican. Sometimes they figure, well, he's a political science professor, he's liberal, right? Then sometimes they think, well, the guy was a business owner, he's probably a conservative, right? Either, people go based on that. And then sometimes they come up with really crazy stuff. Like I remember one time, a student raised their hand and they said, I think I don't remember what they said. I think you're a Republican. And I said, why? And they say, we noticed you use the red marker more than the blue marker. And I'm like, on the whiteboard. And I'm like, you guys need to focus on what I'm talking about. Somebody else, when I taught at Moore Park College, these two guys come up to me and they say, hey, Phil. So, and you guys, you can call me Phil. Like the Dr. Phil thing, definitely don't do. I mean, when I first got my PhD, everybody made the Dr. Phil joke and I pretended like it was funny. But after the 1,000th time, don't do the Dr. Phil thing. Just Phil. If you're not comfortable just calling, I know some people don't feel comfortable speaking to older people by their first name. If you need to use a title, call me Professor Gusson, right? And that's fine. But if you call me Phil, I'm not going to be offended in any way whatsoever. When I was a plumber, I was a master plumber. Nobody ever called me Master Phil, right? And so I knew that when I started teaching, I was just going to tell students, call me by my first name, just like I'm going to call you by your first name. Okay. So these other students at Moore Park, they said, if we offered you a Coors Light or a Miller Genuine Draft, which would you take? And so I'm always honest with my students. I said, both those beers suck. I'm like a Blue Moon 805 beer drinker. But what they told me was that if I said I would take a Coors Light, that meant I was a Republican. If I took a Miller Genuine Draft, that meant I was a Democrat. I don't know where they came up with that. But the reality is I teach the class in a way where I'm not so much trying to hide my political orientation as much as it's irrelevant. When I'm in front of the class, I'm a political scientist. And as a political scientist, my job is to sort of understand and analyze um, politics in a neutral way. But here's the thing and oftentimes what happens is when the class is over, I tell students, if you want to know, you can email me and say, hey, Phil, are you a Democrat or a Republican? And I will tell you. Um, but the truth is, most of the time by the end of the class, they don't care, right? They just don't care. And the reason they don't care is because they see that I follow this approach very, very carefully. Now, here's the thing, though. Being balanced is not the same as being neutral, right? There are facts. Facts matter, right? And when facts are brought into question, I'm going to tell you what the facts are. Not my opinion on something, facts. So, for example, President Bush was legitimately elected in 2000, the 2000 election. You hear all kinds of conspiracies. The Supreme Court made him president. They tossed in his direction. That is not accurate. Factually, not accurate. The chemtrails that you see when planes go by, the idea that the government is like seeding like chemicals to make the population more docile, that is not true. Okay. President Biden was a legitimate winner in the 2020 elections. I don't care what conspiracies you've heard otherwise. And there were no microchips in the COVID vaccines. Okay. So I will call, well, the facts are such, sometimes they may be inconvenient for you. Sometimes you might be like, Phil, is that a matter of opinion? It's like, I'm not going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give you the facts, and I'll back it up. So you can always ask me, what are your sources? And I'll give them to you all the time. So that's my approach to teaching American government, but also part of what I'm trying to do is teach you about political science and what it is we do as political scientists. What is it that makes the people who you see on TV yakking and yelling at one another? Those aren't political scientists, right? What we do is something different. And so part of this class is me introducing you to political science. I remember seeing on a Rate My Professor comment, this student was very upset with me. And they said, he wants you to be like a political scientist. And I thought, yeah, kind of. That's true. Not really, but I want you at least to be able to look at the world through the lens of a political scientist and say, oh, this is how political scientists see things. So keep in mind, this is a political science class, not a history class. And I hope you enjoyed it. So when you're done with this introductory video, go to the next one where I'm going to explain the structure of the class.